What's up, YouTube fam? Robbie C. Today we are out at Veterans Park and we are continuing a talk about putters, and not just, like, hey, everybody needs to be throwing putters, but we actually want to help you be better at throwing putters with just a few short tips that you should consider to help up your putter game, which is definitely going to help the score overall. But wait. Before Silas rolls the intro, I got to ask, super important. Isla, how are you doing today? You having a good one?
So catch me if I fall.
In Tuesday's video this week, we talked about the importance of learning how to throw touch-up shots with your putters. I really want to emphasize this idea that playing with putters as a newer player or someone with a slower arm speed isn't just helpful because, hey, we need to avoid the distance drivers and all that, because I'm with the camp of people that have talked about there is somewhat useful purposes for having faster discs in your bag. Especially if you treat them and put them in the right place, it can be super useful having that high-speed skip opportunity or things of that nature. I think where people misuse the idea of putters only, and by leaning into putters, is that they think that I'm trying to like speed control them or have them like hinder their game. But I really believe in that go back mentality that we've talked about in other parts of videos, and especially in the video earlier this week. If you don't spend time learning to use your putters as many ways as possible, and you just try to skip through putter phase and move straight onto the distance drivers to get that max distance, you're going to be missing out on an essential part of your game that I think will not only help you as a beginner, but it's a skill that's going to help you as you become a more experienced player, because I continue to find player after player that is just not comfortable throwing putters on 200-foot shots, throwing putters on those controlled up and in approach shots. So today I want to give you a couple quick tips that you should consider if you want to improve that part of your game when it comes to not just throwing putters in general, but throwing putters maybe not at 100%, trying to just search for max distance. Here are a few tips I believe in, and a few coming from other creators as well. The first thing you want to remember when getting more familiar with your putters and getting more comfortable throwing your putters is that putters are slow speed discs. So a lot of people, when you think about throwing a driver, you have to throw it somewhat hard and with a decent amount of power, because you need to input spin and power into the disc, which is going to cause it to fly true to the flight numbers that it has. However, one of the beauties of putters is that you can still inject enough spin and power into the disc without having to do a max rip into it either. These 2 and 3 speed discs can be thrown and thrown well when not thrown with full power. They can still get enough spin and power injected into them on that slower toss, which is still going to give them a true flight numbers and true flight capability. And so the first thing that I would focus on is focus on not throwing your putters max power. What do your putters do and how do they fly when you throw them at, let's say, 70%? Rather than this full rip with a full run up, how is it going to go if I take this putter and a nice soft toss, trying to give it a chance? This is about 150 feet out from the basket. You can also experiment with different shot shapes at these slower speeds. Hyzers are always going to be our friend. Trying to put the disc as close to the basket as possible. So rather than thinking I have to go in with this big, huge, crushing shot, learning how to throw your putters and really just getting comfortable with a lot of your discs thrown at softer or less power is going to be helpful. Yeah, see right there. We threw it soft, but at the end of the day, it's a pick. So it still wants to fade out and still have the opportunity to fade out because it's a 3-speed, no matter what end of it tries to tell you. Another perk of doing this is that while you're out there on the course practicing your putter shots, you can also practice your putter putts by throwing these approaches and then trying to get some reps and seeing, boom, how's the putter feeling? Right there, it's not feeling that great. If you find yourself to be an inconsistent putter, I think one of the best things you can do to help your putting overall is to putt in as many different circumstances as possible. So rather than just continuing to grind reps in the backyard and the same setup that you've always been practicing your putts, whenever you're on the course, I think one really cool thing I see, especially following a pro tour, is that they putt multiple times on every single green. So if they are parked by the basket, they know that the odds of them making that putt are really good. So they'll set up and walk to like 25, 20 feet, whatever is more of a, oh, that was good. They'll walk to like a different range and try to get reps in there. So if you are doing a lot of putter practice, might as well put your putting putters in the bag, and you don't have to actually throw them. You can just putt with them at different distances, because these reps are only going to help you improve and get you more comfortable with that putting stroke from different distances, different setups. Make sure that we're getting that stagger practice in as well. I want to take a quick moment pausing from the punter action to tell you guys about a super exciting opportunity that is literally happening right now. That's right. As this video went live, these just went live on the Foundation Discs website. That's right. We have our first ever run of Robbie C discs with Foundation. I am so excited about this stamp and so excited to get some Robbie C discs in your hands because y'all have been asking for a while. This stamp came out absolutely gorgeous, and I want to tell you guys a little bit about it and some of the special meanings that are behind it as our first ever run of stamps with Foundation. Obviously, as Robbie C, we have a little bit of a connection to birds with the birdie fam, leave you with the birdie, and my favorite bird has always been an owl for a multitude of reasons. Going back to owls being a symbol of wisdom and knowledge, and that's something that I've always tried to do, is be a learner of life and learning every chance and opportunity that I can. And my favorite band slash musical artist of all time is Owl City, so you know, unbelievable. Gotta go with the owl on that one. The key you might recognize from these keys that I wear around my neck, and a key is super important to me because I've been wearing this key around my neck since I was in the 7th grade. A speaker once told me that your life is an uncut key. Every decision you make in life puts a cut in your key so that you can open some doors and not others. This bit of wisdom has helped me not only make so many important decisions in my own life, but I actually keep a key on my bag as well to remind me that every decision I'm making on the course is going to open up one door of scoring opportunities while closing another. My hope is that this stamp can not only remind you of a positive person hoping for the best for you while you're out there on the course, but maybe also inspire a little bit smarter decision making while we find ourselves out there as well. Plus, it just like looks really cool. So what molds can you find on this first run of the Robbie C disc with Foundation? Well, we've got 3 spicy options for you. Obviously, the first had to be pigs, because pig is love, pig is life. If you're looking for that reliable, overstable disc that's never gonna fail you, the pig is definitely the option for you. Next is a disc that we firmly believe you can't be a Crawford if you don't love it, and that is the Wraith. Has some easy distance for bigger arms, but for slower arms, as you're learning to get that speed, it's gonna be phenomenal for some forehands, as well as getting you that flip up straight distance over time. But if that 11 speed seems a little too fast for you and you're looking for a little more easy distance, don't worry, we got it. Literally. They're its, the end of a it. Phenomenal, understable fairway driver that should be easy distance for so many players, and for faster arms, it's gonna be a really fun, workable disc that you can get a lot of shot shaping in the woods. The it is awesome, and I think amongst all of the newer molds that Innova's been introducing lately, it is probably the best one. These come in a variety of foils, colors, and weights, which is exactly what we were looking for so that we could help fit the most players with this run as possible. There's obviously a limited supply, so head over to foundationdiscs.com right now to check it out. Thank you again so much for your support. If it wasn't for each and every one of you tuning in and viewing these things, this Foundation opportunity would have never happened, much less we have Foundation discs available. It's crazy. Y'all are the best. Thank you. The next thing that's going to help is messing around with some different options that are still going to give you control and power on your throw without feeling like a standard backhand throw, especially when we're throwing these shorter up shots. A lot of the backhand throw mechanics still exist, but there are some variations and different things that we want to change. Something my coach, Mike Strauss, talks about is the idea of when we're throwing, there are a lot of long levers and pendulums coming into play. This pivot point is here. You have this one into play, which makes this a long lever. This is a lever involved. And so if you're throwing shorter shots, get this unit out of the way and get this unit out of the way and raise the hand above the elbow. That way what we're doing is I turn, instead of this pendulum, pivot point, all that, I shift, and now I have this and this as my 2 pivot points, and I'm going to be able to throw from here, and I can even throw hyzers out and around. Yeah, see? Still so much power even from there that we juiced it long. Boop. Now, a thing that Josh from Overthrow talks about that I think is actually pretty great is this idea of, rather than reaching back on up shots and reaching back on these softer shots, you can sort of think about reaching out and in, out and in. So if you want to like prolong that shot, you can come out and in. Boop. Even the one that I shanked on the pull to the right isn't that terrible, but I think it's important to mess around with these. The thing is, if you're sitting out there and you're in a sanctioned round playing a tournament and you're like, oh man, now's the time to practice this. Here we go. Ah, it doesn't work. I can't believe that Josh and Robbie recommended this technique, which is unsuccessful for me. Ah, I'm moving on to someone else. Here we go. No, you need to find time to practice these things and get used to them, because there are honestly very few skills, especially in disc golf, that you're going to practice once and it's just going to click for you. I think this is another perk of playing putter only rounds, is because, like we've talked about in videos before, it kind of takes the weight and pressure off of things, because if you go out there and score really poorly playing a putter only round, especially if you're out here trying techniques and trying to throw these at 70%, throw these with an adjusted form, throw this with the wrist above the elbow, stuff like that, and you shoot really poorly, you have a literal built-in excuse right there. And if you get out there and shoot really well, doing putter only rounds and trying these techniques out and getting comfortable with those, you have an added bonus to your confidence, because you did all that just throwing putters. I'm gonna put a card to Josh's video right here talking about the out and in piece of the approach shots and things like that. I think it's super helpful, and you can definitely check that out. I'll also put a link to it in the description, but also we've done an upshot series here on the channel as well, so I'll put that in the description as well. I think especially for me personally, learning that sort of pendulum hit and things like that, this increased range, for the first probably month and a half, 2 months that I did it, it honestly didn't feel amazing. I didn't see great results with it. I wasn't like, oh man, I'm locking this in. This is changing everything about my game, especially when it comes to throwing putters, which was something I was already pretty comfortable with. But now that I've spent a lot of time practicing it, I probably get more compliments on that shot during any round that I play than I do anything else, because if I'm 75 feet, 100 feet away from the basket, 150 feet, I can adjust the power by just bringing the hand down to a little more flat with the elbow, and that adds power to the shot already. And so taking this polecat, the amount of times that I can aggressively kind of throw this nose up shot at the basket and let it fly in, super comfortable. But it took time and it took reps. I wish it was overnight. That would have been way easier. The last thing we want to talk about when it comes to putter success and throwing putters well is the grip. There's a video that's out there on the internet that lots of people have seen, and it's out there. It's a picture of a dew-tant, and it's held out like this, and it has a red greater than sign traced in on these fingers right here. And it says, if you struggle with throwing nose up, all you need to do is put the disc between that part right there and then wrap your hand around, and boom, you're throwing nose down. Now, I think that that gets us somewhat on the right track, but that's like saying that if you go online and buy a plane ticket, congratulations, you're in Paris. Once you buy the plane ticket, you still have to pack. You still have to get in the car or get a ride to the airport, and then you have to get on the plane, and then you're gonna find yourself in Paris. Just simply doing this isn't necessarily gonna fix it. You have to think about maintaining that angle throughout the entire throw. You have to think about maintaining that angle while you pull through and not going high to low and swooping into the shot, because that's also going to cause it to throw nose up. There are so many things other than just doing this, but the real thing that I want to talk about with this grip that everyone does is that this usually leads to a backloaded grip. You can see that if I do this right here and I'm pinching down, I'm focused on, it is difficult for me to not change the grip. You can see the disc literally like slips out and away from my hand when I take the back fingers off. But if I take this, boop, my little arrow, bang, I wrap around, I can keep my fingers popping off because this is a very backloaded grip. Now, when I'm throwing up shots, I love to use this backloaded grip. This is very point and click, or point and shoot. I believe Josh uses that term when he's talking about this backloaded grip. And the backloaded grip for up shots is something that Mike Strauss and I have been talking about for a while. Super, super helpful. It allows you to think about pulling the hand through and whoop, you can pull the hand through and throw the back of the hand at the shot. Now, like we talked about in point 1, putters don't have to have a ton in them to fly correctly. Another thing that this does is if you bring the wrist above the elbow and you do a backloaded grip, you can throw nose up pretty comfortably. You can even see as I'm doing this, for me to get the disc nose down and throw here, I have to like, boop, but I can very comfortably throw here and throw nose up, which is gonna cause it to be a floaty shot, and putters respond pretty well to being thrown nose up because with this extra weight, they're being carried. It's super awesome. So rather than thinking about having a front-loaded grip, which is gonna cause more rotation and more spin to be put into the disc because it snaps off the front of the fingers and all that, by having a back-loaded grip, I get a lot more control because when I'm throwing these 150-foot, 200-foot shots, I don't need all the spin in the world to get the thing going, because by just injecting enough speed with this back-loaded grip and pulling the disc through the shot, throwing the back of my hand at the shot, I'm going to have the control that I need, because those shots are the ones that we kick ourselves the most for because, oh, I can see the basket, I'm so close. I can think of an example while I'm filming this. Champions Cup is happening, and Haley King had a smash of a drive yesterday, and she was all the way up the fairway, and then she went to throw an upshot and she completely fluffed it and it went super left of the basket. So then she's frustrated because she threw a great drive, put herself in position, and then a lousy upshot and made her unable to capitalize on the birdie. And man, I can get that. I can totally understand why people get frustrated on these shorter shots. And I think your grip alone, by having more of a front-loaded grip and thinking about these front fingers being the main piece, rather than letting it be back-loaded and being back up in there and letting that hold the weight, boom, nice and controlled, it's not going anywhere, very point and shoot. If I want to throw drives out in an open field where there's lots of room for variance, that's where that front-loaded helps, because I can have a little bit more range, but the extra spin that I get is going to be helpful there. But when I'm throwing those controlled up shots, backloaded grip's the key. Now it's going to feel like I'm glossing over this last point. Let's call it like maybe say 3-point B. But another shot that I see tons of people struggle with is forehanding putters. A lot of people will practice with these super overstable, let's say, putt and approach discs on forehands, and I think that's very helpful. But learning how to throw maybe a neutral putter and put it on a lot of hyzer and let it ride up and ride that hyzer is going to be a great way to teach you a controlled forehand. And when you step up to throw those super overstable and approach discs, you won't need the auto correction of them as much, because you can have a little more finesse and a little more touch to your forehand. I know from my game personally, there are lots of shorter holes where I'm stepping up to a 240-foot hole, a 230-foot hole, and I'm not even thinking about throwing anything other than my pig, no matter what stability of pig I'm throwing, because I've spent a lot of time focused on throwing polecats on forehands, and I've spent a lot of time throwing deputies on forehands, throwing these understable to neutral putters and learning what to do with those so that I have the reliability of throwing the overstable putt and approach disc rather than the crutch of only being able to throw that fast disc on a forehand. Plus, another perk of being able to step up to a 150-foot upshot and knowing that you can throw a pig or a slower speed disc into that green means you don't have to worry about coming off of a faster disc like a Firebird or something of the sort, and you also really don't have to worry about the extra skip of those discs and have to aim so wide. You can kind of play that point and shoot game once again and not necessarily aim at the basket unless you're trying to ace run it or throw it in or something, but you can aim just left of the basket and let it come nail right next to the basket. Easy birdie, easy par, easy whatever you're throwing in for. So that's going to wrap it up for today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I hope that this putter series this week has been helpful. I don't want to come across as like I think people are doing it wrong. I just know personally that if you gain certain skills in your game, it's really hard to convince yourself to go back and learn these sub skills or these smaller skills, because we end up finding other ways to cover that weakness or cover that area with faster discs or discs that help me a little bit more naturally. And being able to throw putters is a skill that is not only going to help you score better, but it's going to allow you to be more accurate on the course. If we're talking about bragging rights to friends, because I know there are lots of people that watch these videos that don't ever plan on playing tournaments, you do get that sweet, sweet satisfaction of looking at everybody else on the card when they all don't get the birdie. You get to walk up and be like, hey guys, you know what I threw on that one? I threw a putter. I want to say, as always, thank you for watching and thank you for tuning in. Thank you for continuing to support the Robbie C channel. Y'all are the best. I hope you have an amazing rest of the week and that you can make it fantastic for someone else too. But for now, we're going to leave you with the birdie.